Hey guys, it's Melissa, and tonight we are going to talk all about Instagram engagement. So, you might have heard my podcast episode on the Meriwether Council podcast last week. It was all about Instagram engagement and really how it's the key to being successful on Instagram. I gave a ton of tips to you guys, shared some of my best secrets, and tonight I really wanted to get into the nitty gritty of what Instagram engagement is, how you can find out your own engagement rates. I've got do's and don'ts that you should be doing to make sure that you're having like the best rate possible. I've got like all kinds of notes here written for you guys. So we're gonna go through everything, hopefully shed a lot of light on this subject, and hopefully you'll walk away with a greater understanding of what this is, what it means, why it's important, and how you can succeed here on Instagram. It's kind of weird to admit, but it does feel kind of strange to be talking about Instagram and these strategies that I use on Instagram to Instagram. But I know that we're all kind of playing the same game here. And I think if you do some of these things in a genuine, meaningful way, we can all win. Because if Instagram was a game, or if it was its own like country, the currency and the way to win is through engagement. That is the biggest thing that you can have on Instagram to be successful. It's not followers, it's not just the number of likes, it is truly who has the most engaged audience. So let's go through what that means and what you need to know about Instagram engagement. So first things first, what am I talking about? What is Instagram engagement? Instagram engagement is basically the percentage or the number of people that are engaging with your comment or with your content through liking and commenting. It's pretty much boiled down to a percentage. So most of the time when you hear people talking about Instagram engagement, they're talking about their engagement rate. In a couple minutes here, we're gonna get through how to calculate your own engagement rate, what the average is, and how you can kind of increase that. But really what it boils down to is the percentage of people that are engaging with the content that you put out. And usually that means liking and subscribing. I don't know, as far as I know, and as far as everything that I've looked up, sorry, I'm adjusting my phone here, but as far as everything that I've looked up, Instagram stories aren't really taken into account, but you could definitely take the same philosophy and see your engagement rate for stories as well. But before we get into the numbers and how you calculate them and all of that good stuff, why is your Instagram engagement and Instagram engagement rate important? It is important because back in the day, like when Facebook was kind of new, sorry, my phone keeps like sliding around, you guys. I'm sorry if I'm like crooked or adjusting it, but it's gonna drive me nuts. So I might keep adjusting it, but we'll see what happens. Okay. So back in the day, when Facebook was kind of new and Twitter was newer, Instagram was like new on the scene, people cared more about reach. And reach means like the number of people that are just seeing your content. So let's say your post saw like 10,000 people saw your post. That was your reach, and that was the number that people focused on. Now they're concerned with how many people and what percentage of your audience is engaging with that by liking or commenting on that post. And that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any social media platform really. And just so you guys know, I will get into the numbers too, but let me see my notes here. Instagram has like triple the amount of engagement that Twitter and Facebook have. So it really is moving to be like the most engaging and best platform to be on. If you're gonna try and be running a business or selling something or being what they call an influencer, Instagram is the place to be. Okay, so I want you to think about for a minute some of the people that you follow, and think about the ones where you're like, oh my gosh, I followed them for years. Like I know their story, I know their pets' names, I know their spouse's name. Think about like those types of people that you follow. Those are gonna be the people that you're most engaged with. Whereas on the other hand, you might have someone who you followed last week and you may not know very much about them yet. So you may not be engaged with that person or brand quite yet. But what we want is for more people to have that connection with us where they're like, oh my gosh, like I love their XYZ. I feel like they would be my best friend in real life, or whatever that looks like. We want people to be really truly connected and engaged with what we're posting. And when you have that, that makes it a lot easier for you to sell things or be influential or help people be introduced to like products or different things that they may not have known of otherwise. And they're going to trust you more because, like I already said, they're already engaged and they're already invested in you and your brand and what you're doing and maybe even what you're selling. Also, another thing I wrote down here, I just wrote algorithm, exclamation point. So we talk about the algorithm on Instagram all the time, and I think that it really gets a terrible reputation. It's like public enemy number one on Instagram because we all think that it's out to get us sometimes, and it's really not at all. Instagram has however many million, maybe even billions of people using this app. I don't know the number, but Instagram is trying to keep people on its app for longer periods of time. It wants to maximize its users' experience and keep them in the app as long as possible. So in order to do that, they create algorithms to give not customers, but users, because you know it's a free app, to give their users what they want to see and keep them on the app longer. And the more content they show those users that the users enjoy, the longer they're going to stay on the app. So when they build out an algorithm, it is truly to give people what they want to see. It's not to minimize anybody. It's not to like make you feel like no one's ever going to see your post again. Oh, Danielle, yes, thank you. 1 billion plus active users on Instagram at the moment. That is insane, insane. But the algorithm is really to show all of those billion people what they want to see, when they want to see it, how they want to see it. So they use algorithms to figure out who are you engaging with. And let's say you always like one person's post and you comment on them all the time. Instagram is going to be showing you their content first because they think that you like it. So be mindful of that too as you're liking and commenting on people's posts. That is going to be the content that you see more often because Instagram is thinking, okay, they really like that. Let me show them more of that content. Algorithm works for me. I see some excellent Backstreet Boys content. Yes. I know I follow some like random accounts and I always like to see that in my feed too. So that is pretty much Instagram engagement in a nutshell. Now let's get into the numbers. I really enjoy this part. I'm going to break it down. I may put this in a blog post. I haven't quite decided yet if you want to read it later, but take some notes if you want to. Otherwise, I'll give you some references and things that you can Google. Also, I'm like talking a lot with my pen. I don't know why. Maybe it's because this is numbers and I feel like I'm doing like math homework or something. Okay, so we talked about Instagram engagement. It is basically the rate that people are engaging with your content. So if you have a pen and paper, this would be a good thing to write down. If you don't worry. I'm going to break it down and have examples and stuff. So your engagement rate is calculated by the total number of likes and comments you have divided by the number of followers that you have. Now, you can either look at this on an individual post level or you can look at it like as your account as a whole. It's a lot easier to look at it as like individual posts. There's apps and even Instagram's app can help you see this, but you can also just Google it. You can Google like Instagram engagement rate calculator, and that'll help you calculate like your overall account's engagement rate. So I know I referenced Facebook and Twitter earlier, but just so you know, for comparison, Facebook and Twitter have less than a 1% engagement rate. Instagram, on the other hand, the average engagement rate is 3%. That means that 3% of your total followers, your total audience, is engaging by liking or commenting on your content. That really doesn't sound like very much. But when you think about it in terms of Facebook and Twitter, it is triple what they have. So Instagram is like really just like trudging forward on being the best platform to be an influencer or have a business or just be like a personality, like whatever you want to do. If your end game is to make money off of using this app, Instagram is the place to be. And if you're not here for that, if you're just here because you enjoy knit or crochet or anything else, that's great too. It's still cool to kind of understand like how it all works. And I really enjoy like the numbers part of it. So the average engagement rate on Instagram is 3%, but some like websites say different things, but the range that I was seeing was 3 to 6% is average. If you are above 6%, that's like amazing, but anywhere between like 3.5 and 6% is a high engagement rate, which is a really good thing, because again, that is going to help you be more successful, be seen, be influential. If you ever want to work with brands, these are things that are going to help you stand out. So again, basically the way that you calculate it is, I'm just going to go straight into the examples. I think that'll make more sense. So let's say we have a person with 1,000 followers, and let's say we have a person with 10,000 followers. I'm going to use these two examples for a minute here, and what I hope that this proves and what I want you to keep in mind is that the number of followers that you have really doesn't matter. Like, it kind of matters, but if you have a good engagement rate, that's worth your weight in gold. That is so much better than having a bajillion followers. So we have a person with 1,000 followers and we have a person with 10,000 followers. Now let's say the person with 1,000 followers puts up a new post and they have 100 people like and comment on the post. So let's say it's like 90 likes and 10 comments. That person has a 10% engagement rate. 10%. That's amazing. That's more than any of the other numbers that I just said. So it could be, 50 likes, 50 comments, whatever. They have 100 interactions with their post and they have a 10% engagement rate. Now, let's take the other person who has 10,000 followers and let's say they have a 1% engagement rate. So that would be the same amount of people, 100 people, that would have engaged with their post. So they could have liked or commented, but let's say they have 100 people like or comment on their post. They only have a 1% engagement rate. They only had 100 people engage with their post out of 10,000. Whereas the person with 1,000 followers that had 100 people engage with their post, they have a 10% engagement rate. That is really powerful. I remember back when I was starting this account, and you guys might notice this on people that you see or follow on Instagram or even on your own account, but sometimes, most times actually, there are obviously exceptions to this, but the more followers that you have, the harder it is to have a higher engagement rate. So if you have 100,000 followers, that's going to be a lot harder for you to have 10% of your audience engaging with your content, because that would be 10,000 people engaging with your content, versus if you had 1,000 people following you and you had 100 people engage with your content, and then that would also be a 10% engagement rate. I'm sorry, I'm like spewing numbers out at you guys right and left. That's a great question if your replies to comments count. I don't know if this is true, but I heard that they do count if it's more than 4 words. So if you say thanks, exclamation point, it's probably not going to count. Or if someone comments and just like has a smiley face emoji, it's probably not going to count. That I don't know 100% for sure, but that's something that I've kind of heard consistently. But it's kind of hard to find if things are like 100% fact or not. So I could be wrong. It could change, but that's kind of what I heard about whether or not your comments count and whether or not, like a quick little emoji type comment counts. And just something to think about too when we talk about engagement is, I'm going to get to this later too, but I'll just touch on it now. There's a saying, you might have heard it, but a big no-no if you want to have good engagement is don't post and ghost. So don't put up a post and then just like shut off your phone and walk away. Hang out for 10 to 15 minutes on Instagram, and if anyone's commenting on your post, comment back. Like, show that you're engaging. Let's say it doesn't even count in the algorithm, but I think it does as long as it's more than 4 words. But then your audience knows that you're there, and it's not just like, oh, where'd Melissa go? Like, they know that you're there, you're commenting, you're excited to talk to them. It goes a long way. So don't post and ghost. Don't post and then just like leave people hanging. Post and then hang out for 10 to 15 minutes and like have conversations with people in that comments section. Okay, that's why it's key to only allow real people to follow. Yes, I have blocked so many spam accounts and so many accounts that I just think are like, I don't want to say creepy, but if they give you a bad vibe, just like block them. Okay, so I did go through some examples. At the end of the day, if you have 10,000 followers and 100 people consistently engaging with your post at a 1% engagement rate, and you have 1,000 followers and you consistently have 100 people engaging with your post, and you have a 10% engagement rate, so we have more followers, lower engagement, lower followers, higher engagement, it's kind of a wash. One isn't really better than the other, and I would actually argue that the lower number of followers and higher engagement rate is going to be better, because Instagram is going to be promoting more of your content. It's going to be showing you to more people, especially those that already follow you, and it's going to be saying like, hey, people seem to like engaging with this, so let's promote it to more people in that algorithm that we talked about earlier. So this part of it kind of is like strategy, and it's kind of a game. But when you think about it, and again, what I really, really, really want you to take away from this is that it doesn't really matter how many followers you have. What matters the most is that you're taking care of the followers that you have already, and that you're serving them well. You're giving them things that they actually want to see and that they enjoy seeing. And hopefully they're not just people that like followed you once for a giveaway and don't actually care, don't even know what your name is. Like, you want people to know you and like you and trust you. And that is kind of the intangible part of the engagement rate that I don't really think that you can measure, but definitely having that constant interaction of people liking and commenting on your content, that just boosts your engagement rate. And okay, we're back here. Sorry. I use my computer for light, so it goes dim when I forget to like move my mouse around. But really what's the most important is that people are actually engaging with what you're posting and not just like scrolling past it. So first and foremost, before I move into tips for how to increase your Instagram engagement rate, do you guys have any questions about like what it means or any of the numbers that I broke down? I want to make sure that we're like on the same page before I start talking about some of those do's and don'ts. Gianna, yes, and maybe your followers will actually become our friends in real life. Yes, I have like a Sip and Stitch group here in Detroit that Gianna Little Red Knits is in, and it is so cool when people become your real life friends. Like, it's not just like a game of numbers. They're real people that you're trying to connect with. And even as we talk about engagement rates, that's measuring your real interactions with real people. Like, don't get so caught up in it that you only think of Instagram in terms of numbers, because every account is a person, unless it's like a bot, in which case you should definitely block them. Okay, so I hope that we're all clear on Instagram engagement. Now I want to talk about some do's and don'ts and some things that hopefully will help you increase that engagement rate and yeah, be seen, beat the algorithm, like have people love your content. And I know I mentioned like the hard way to calculate your engagement rate, which is basically likes plus comments divided by followers. That's a really great way to look at an individual post. But if you look at, if you just Google Instagram engagement rate calculator, you can just plug in your Instagram handle and it'll tell you like the overall rating for your account. So I plug mine in. Different websites will be slightly different, but it might tell you 5% or might tell you 6% or it might tell you 3%. But that'll give you a really good overview idea. And then some of the Instagram apps that help you plan your feed and your kind of like pictures and aesthetic will show you like the actual Instagram engagement rate per post. So I use the Preview app, and that one gives you kind of like a summary, and you can look at post by post, like what your engagement rates were for each post. And you can kind of take a look and see what content was the most successful and maybe what people didn't love as much. Is it better to gain followers slow and steady or push for burst. I personally think slow and steady. I think it's better to serve your audience that you already have really well versus just trying to like constantly get new people to follow you. Because if you're constantly trying to like get new people to follow you, then the ones who are already following you are going to be like, cool, like, what about me? So make sure that you're constantly giving everybody love, and it's not just about like, oh, I want more followers. Oh, I just hit 20K. Oh, I hit 30K. Oh, I hit 40K. Like it's not so much about that number. It's really just a representation of like the people that have invested in you. And I think your engagement rate is a really good measurement of how much people are caring with what they see, like how much they're actually choosing to like double tap or comment on it versus just scrolling right by. Slow and steady wins the race. Yeah, and like I said too, you might look at other accounts and say, okay, well they have 10 times as many followers as me. Wow, they must be so great. But in reality, if you compared your engagement rates, you might actually have more people engaging with your content. I keep mixing that up. You might actually have more people engaging with your content depending on how you're interacting with your audience and how the other person is too. Okay. So let's break this down into some do's and don'ts. And I keep on meaning to have tea and then I just like keep talking. So 1 second. Okay. First things first, I just mentioned it, but I like to use the preview app and I can look post by post and see which post had the best engagement rate. So what you want to do is just take, like, you don't need to like dig in here for hours. You don't need to have spreadsheets, but just take like a high level look at what posts are performing the best and why you think that is. Like, did you have a really good caption? Was it a picture of a certain project that just consistently like does better than your other posts? Was it a post that had your face in it? Did people enjoy seeing you? Just kind of take a look and see if there's any common themes in those posts and like how you can kind of replicate that or continue to incorporate more posts like that in the future. Kind of basically just listen to what your followers are already telling you. Figure out what they like to see and show them more of that. And you know what? At the same time, make sure that it's content that you enjoy too, because you shouldn't constantly just be doing what other people want. Like, you should be happy with what you're putting out there too. Sorry I missed some comments, guys. The hardest part is creating the caption. I do hear that a lot. I should honestly do a whole Instagram live on like writing captions, but I don't find it too much of a science to it. I think just like sitting down and writing whatever's on your mind, really. A lot of people look at your pictures but don't comment or like. How do you encourage them to like? Great question. I'm gonna get to that in a second here. Write caption can be so hard. Okay, wow, okay. I'm seeing a lot of stuff that you guys are saying captions are really difficult. So let's talk about that for a second and some more things here. So let's say we've looked at our content and like what people are engaging with the most. We obviously want to replicate that. But if you're just seeing it's kind of consistent, it's kind of like meh across the board, let's talk about that for a second. So first of all, what I talked a lot about in the Merriweather Council podcast was showing up, showing your face. That means sometimes putting a picture of yourself in your feed so people know who they're talking to and who they're following. I know it sounds so silly, and I can't tell you how many people tell me like, well, I don't like the way I look, or I don't want to show my face, or this or that. But I think it's a very, very, very powerful thing to show who you are and show up. And I promise the more that you show up and the more you show your face, either in your stories or on your feed, it gets so much easier. Like, it's not even a big deal. Just trust me on that. I think showing your face is very, very powerful. I also think post meaningful content. Like, do you want to see a post? I have nothing to like have an example of, but do you want to see a post that's like, look at my new pen? Like, if that was my caption, it was like, look at my new pen. Like, that's, no, who cares? No one cares. No one is going to engage with that. There's nothing to engage with. Like, that's silly. But what if it was, OMG guys, I just got this new pen. I wrote the best new pattern with it today, and guess what? Like, it's erasable. It's the best thing ever. like that at least gives you something, like something to be said about it. It's not just like, ooh, a new pen. It's now I'm giving you some type of context of like why I'm posting about it. Now, the next thing and a way to take that a step further, and people misuse this all the time, so hear me out before you just take this for like literal what I say, but ask a question. Now, I'm gonna give you a good and a bad example. I'm thinking of these on the spot, so like this is not really a real example that I would post about. But let's say I said, look at my new pen. What kind of pens do you use? Who is really gonna stop what they're doing, stop scrolling, and like respond back to me what kind of pen they use? Like, no one really cares. But let's say I said something like, I just got this new pen. I'm obsessed with it. It comes in all these different colors, and I can't decide when I write up this pattern if I should use red pen or if that's too aggressive, or if I should use a green pen because that's my favorite color. Like, which color would you guys use? People will be so much more likely to stop and comment if you're asking them for their opinion, or if they can comment quickly and say like green, blue, versus being like the first example I gave where it's like, oh, okay, well, like, let me look up what kind of pen I use. And oh yeah, I guess I use this, you know, Pilot, you know, Friction Clicker 7, erasable, made in Japan. No one's gonna stop and comment that, but they might think like, oh my gosh, you should definitely use green. So when you're asking a question, make sure that it's something that you would actually stop and answer. And another question that I think is so, like, if you've done this, it's okay, we've all done it. But when people say like, it's super sunny here today, what's the weather like where you are? No one really cares. And I hate to say that because someone might comment, like someone might actually, you know, want to start a conversation about that. Or there might be something like crazy, like maybe you saw a rainbow today and then it was like hailing 2 minutes later. I'm not knocking the weather in any kind of way. But like, that's not really something that people are going to stop and take time to respond to. So try and give them an opportunity to provide feedback, provide their opinion, make it like an A, B, or C type of thing where they can like pick their answer. You know, let's say I posted a new pattern I was designing and saying, oh yeah, do you guys like this top? Do you think I should make it like short or long? Do you want it cropped or do you want it a regular length? People might be more apt to give their opinion on something like that than, hey, what's the weather like today? And sometimes it doesn't even have to be a question. It can just be a caption that prompts someone else to say like, oh, me too. Or, oh yeah, I totally relate to that. Or, oh my gosh, thank you for putting words to this. Like, I really needed that today. I find those are also really powerful and they don't always have to have a question in them. Let's see, I know I missed a bunch of comments here because I was kind of ranting. But I have some other things. I just want to answer comments. Okay. I think I'm okay. So let's see here. Ask questions. Oh, this is a good one. So instead of, I already talked about posting and ghosting. Do not post and ghost. But also remember that like Instagram isn't just about you. It's not just about people coming to your feed and liking your stuff, but you should also be trying to like see what other people are up to. If you haven't yet, make some friends on the app, like DM some people, start conversations, comment on their stuff. It's not just about you and your posts, so don't forget that. I know it's really easy to get wrapped up in like what you're posting and what you're doing. But head over to someone else's feed that you haven't really seen in a while and like comment on a couple pictures that you really like and let them know like, hey, hope you're good, or whatever that is. Don't forget to engage with other people. It's not just about you. It's not just about your engagement rate. And it's just going to help you out if people know that you're not just in it for yourself. Like if you're rooting others on and helping them succeed, it's just going to help you be more successful as well. Last thing is use your Instagram stories. So one thing that I like to do sometimes is right after I do a post, there's like a little paper airplane icon like by your post, and you can share that post to your stories. So once it's in your Instagram story, then people can click on it and go right to the post, and they can read the rest of the caption, or they can see other pictures in the post. But that's a really helpful way to just point them to the post and like give people a reminder of, oh, hey, cool, let me go check that out. Now, what I will say about all these do's that I just said, so asking questions, engaging with people, showing your face, using your stories, two rules here. 2 rules that you have to follow. The first is be genuine. If you're being fake, or if you're just trying to get people to like your post, people see right through that. That's a no-no. It's not gonna work out for you. Make sure that you're being genuine. And if you don't know for sure, if you're like kind of bordering and you're not sure if you should post it or like change something about it, think about like what you would say, or like how you would react if you saw that. Like, would you stop and say something? Would you stop and comment? Or would you just be like, they're just trying to get me to comment on this right now? One thing that you can do is ask somebody around you, like, hey, what do you think of this caption? I ask my husband all the time. I'll be like, hey, can you read this real quick? Does that sound okay? And sometimes he will be like, it's kind of wordy. And I'm like, okay, well, I like it. And I post it anyway. But a lot of times it can just give you that quick gut check of like you're kind of sounding a little bit cheesy. Like it looks like you're really fishing for comments here. So just have someone else read it real quick if you have somebody around. Otherwise, just write it and figure out, maybe you just want to sit on it for a minute, sit on it for an hour, and then look at it again a little bit later and see if you still like what you wrote for your caption. So be genuine. That's rule number 1. The second rule is to try and post meaningful content. Like, again, if I just post, why my phone is like tipping over. Oh, okay. If I just post, ooh, look at my new pen, that's like not meaningful at all. And not everything has to be like crazy meaningful, but it should have some type of purpose. It should make someone feel good, or help them, or encourage them, or inspire them, or maybe give them an update on something. It should have some type of purpose behind it, and not just be like, ooh, a post. So try and make sure that everything you're doing is genuine and has meaning behind it, and that will help you so much in making sure that people are going to engage with what you're posting. I just had another thought and I lost it, and it was something that just popped up in the spur of the moment. Man, I wish I could remember what it was. Maybe it'll come back to me. But those are like the 2 biggest things, I think. I think it's just really important to act like a real person. Oh, guys, I remember. Okay, whew, I'm so happy I remembered. Okay, I was going to say, you should always be genuine. You should always, have meaning or purpose behind your content. Now, here's the other thing. Again, if you're a business, if you're an influencer, if you are trying to like sell something or potentially make money or have a business, that's great. Like, that's fantastic. I'm doing that. It's kind of weird to say that sometimes, that like I make money off of selling crochet patterns off of here, but that's true. You probably knew that. But here's the thing. If I look at my last 9 posts, those top 3 rows of posts in my feed, and I click on them, maybe one of those should be like a sales post. Maybe one of those should say like, hey, have you seen my latest pattern? Go get it at the link in my bio. But be very, 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 very careful with how much you're selling to people. You want to make sure that you're giving them a lot of information, that you're giving them help, that you're serving them, and then sell to them once in a great while. It should not ever be like, ooh, look at my new pen. Look at my new marker. Look at my new pencil. Did you buy my new pen yet? No. Maybe like 1 in every 9 or 10 posts should be a straight up sales pitch. One of the things that I will like plug here and there is my email list. And if I have something really exciting coming out or something that I want to make sure people don't miss, I'll add that to my stories, or I will do a post and like write in the post like, hey, if you're not on my email list, make sure that you join, link in my bio. And I mean, if I did that every single day, would that be very interesting? No. So when you have something to sell or something that you really want people to act on, when you're putting in, as they call it, a call to action, make sure that you're not overdoing it. So maybe if you think about doing it once a week or once every like 9 or 10 posts, that's probably a good number to be at. And make sure all the rest of your content is just content either for fun or because it's engaging, or just not anything but selling to people, because that gets old really, really quickly, and people aren't going to be liking and commenting on something if you're just trying to constantly like sell them and like push a product or push something to them all the time. So that's a don't. I already said don't post and ghost. So don't post and then just like turn off your phone. Hang out on Instagram for like 10 or 15 minutes and comment on, like if anyone comments on your picture, comment back to it. Just kind of like stay engaged, see what's going on, and don't just like shut off your phone and ghost. Hang out for a minute and keep chatting with people if they are commenting on your stuff. Okay, so I said you know, I was so concerned with forgetting that one point, and I actually did have it written down last year. So, okay, I'm glad I had my own back there. So that's Instagram engagement in a nutshell. The main things to remember here is that just like anything else here, it really is just a number. If you're showing up, as they say on The Bachelor, if you're showing up for the right reasons, you're gonna do just fine. But if you're trying to sell people and gain followers 100 different ways every single day, you're probably going to hurt your engagement rate a little bit. And in the long run, that's what matters the most. It's not about achieving a certain number of followers. It's not about having a post go viral. It's really about creating an engaged audience that is there for the long haul, and they want to hang around. They want to see what you're up to. They want to be a part of it, and not just hitting milestones and trying to like sell things to people. I think the more genuine you are, and I try to be very genuine, but like I said, I do make money off of what I do. Like that's why I do this. I have a business. So just always trying to balance the business side and the strategy side with being genuine, being meaningful, and being there for the right reasons, and not just trying to like make money off of people, because these aren't just accounts, these aren't just numbers. These are real people that use the app, and we should connect with them. And there's amazing people out there that you can work with or just chat with, and we don't want to lose sight of that, because I know when I started this Woods and Wool account, it was just to connect with other people, and I never want to lose sight of that. I never want to get so caught up in the numbers that I forget what's really important. So that's my spiel. Let me just make sure I got any last minute questions before I get off here. I've heard you should reply within 2 hours of someone commenting. I would actually say even sooner than that, but it's never too late. I try to respond to every single comment as long as it's worth responding to. Like if it's like, love it, then I'll just like it. But otherwise, if people are taking the time to write something on my post to me, I want to take the time to say something back, at least say thank you. So I think even if you're past the 2 hour window or whatever window we think it is, I think it's still worth responding, just because again, they're real people that took time out of their day to say something to you, and it'd be nice just to acknowledge it back. Hashtags. Honestly, I think hashtags are great. I think you should always mix them up. I don't think that they're the end all be all. I kind of think that hashtags used to be a little bit more relevant and powerful than they are now, but they're definitely still worth adding. They're still important, but I don't think that they're like the end game. I think they're just one of the pieces to the puzzle. I didn't watch The Bachelor either. I used to watch it all the time, and I haven't decided if I'm watching this season yet. That would be a whole separate Instagram live. Okay, cool. Can you say this live? Yes, so I will be putting this up on my stories for the replay. So if you guys missed anything or if you want to watch it from the beginning, you can do that for sure. And I'm hoping to maybe just kind of do a quick summary of the high level points in a blog post. So I will let you guys know if I end up writing that up. I haven't quite decided yet. I probably will. It's just 7:15 and like I kind of just want to lay on the couch and read a book. I've been reading Crazy Rich Asians, and I'm on the 3rd book of the series. I haven't watched the movie yet, but I'm on the 3rd book of this series, and they're so good, so captivating, and like that's my favorite way to unwind right now, is just like laying on the couch and reading a book. I should probably crochet some stuff. I've got some stuff to be working on, but I really want to read. It's probably worthwhile checking the time of day your posts get the best engagement in this industry that seems that more people are more active in the morning. Yes. I think, okay, and when I say yes, I mean yes to kind of keep an eye on that and look for like consistent things. If there's certain things you're noticing when you always post in the morning, if that's most effective for you. For me, I actually like to post in the evening. Now, maybe I'm making a huge mistake. Maybe that's not the best time. But for me, that's actually when I come up with like the best captions. I like to just like sit down, get out my phone, and just like type whatever I'm thinking. And at the end of the day, that's kind of when my brain is like unloading and just like processing thoughts, and I'm thinking about like whatever's on my mind. And usually that's what ends up being in my caption. So it has to be a mix of what time you think is going to help your engagement, but also like what time works best for you. Like if I posted in the morning, let's say 9 a.m., like I'm already at work. I'm not going to stop what I'm doing at work to write an Instagram post. That's not realistic with my schedule. But figure out whatever works for you. Sorry guys, I'm just like went silent. I'm just reading some comments here. Okay, cool. I think I answered all of your questions. If I did not, feel free to send me a DM. I'm hoping again to have this up on the blog tomorrow. But you can always add more comments on the blog post, and then I can answer those questions and just like edit the blog post and add in anything that I might have missed. Oh yes, Natalie, I post when I know I'll be available to engage. I feel the same way. For me, evenings just work best. It's when I can really just like focus and zone in and not be distracted by other things. But figure out what works best for you and what you're finding is most successful and working the best for your audience. And, you know, maybe it's the time of day, maybe it's the type of picture, maybe it's the type of caption. It's going to be different for everybody. And it's kind of an adventure to figure out. But, yeah, it's like, again, it's just really the best part of this app is engaging with other people and like helping people and talking with them and having shared interest. So that's really what Instagram engagement is all about. And it's the secret to success. If you want to go places, if you want to have a business, if you want to work with brands, like this is the key to all of that. So keep that in mind. And like I said, hoping to have this up on the blog tomorrow, and feel free to add any more comments or questions to that post, and I will do my best to answer them in that post. I hope that you guys have a fantastic night, and I will see you guys next Wednesday, same time, same place. And I have a few ideas of what we're going to talk about, but it seemed to work well when I did a poll, so I'll probably do another poll on our next topic, and we'll go from there. So I'll see you guys next week.